It's like, oh, I think it was Valentine's Day.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so nice.
Ready?
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Mundelein Elementary School District 75 Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, April 28th, 2021. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Erickson.
Here.
Fingerhut, here. Price.
Here.
Gallegos.
Here.
St. Clair. Here. Holly.
Here.
And DuPont is not.
Okay, the first item on the agenda tonight is citizens' comments. If anyone out on the internet would like to make a comment to the Board of Education, please click the raise hand icon. When it's your turn to speak, it will be brought into the live session.
Chris just raised his hand briefly, but I don't know. He put it down right away. So I'll just double click to it. No,
If anyone would like to address the Board of Education, please click the raise hand icon on the bottom.
it's not putting it back up.
Is there anyone actually watching?
There's 5.
I was just curious. Okay, last chance. If you'd like to address the Board of Education, please click the raise hand icon. Otherwise, we will continue the meeting.
No.
Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is the canvass to confirm the Lake County Clerk's confirmation of canvass of votes for the Board of Education for the full 4-year term. We have Raymond J. Rose, Eric Billetier, Freddie Gallegos, and Alvin Hitzke. Welcome, everyone's in the audience tonight. And also elected to a 2-year term is Kevin Holly. Excellent. So I
Welcome
move.
to you as well.
Thank you.
I don't know that person, do you? Yeah, okay.
I move that the Mundelein Elementary School District 75 Board approve the final abstract of votes for the April 6, 2021 consolidated election as canvassed by the Lake County Clerk.
Second.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Holly.
Aye.
Fingerhut, aye. Price.
Aye.
Sorry. Gallegos.
Aye.
St. Clair.
Aye.
Erickson.
Aye.
Okay, the next item is the appointment of the President and Secretary Pro Tem for the reorganization meeting. To launch the process of organizing a new school board, someone must be selected to serve as the President Pro Tem until the board elects a permanent president. The President of the board is the first officer to be elected and immediately assumes duties of the chair to preside over the election of other officers. The temporary secretary should also be appointed to keep a record of the board's actions. Secretary Pro Tem may be a board member or a district employee who customarily performs the board secretary's duties. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. So Lisa or Christy, who would like to be the President Pro Tem?
Lisa. Go for it.
Lisa.
You don't want to switch roles?
I've
Lisa,
already got
you-
this stuff in front.
Lisa, you were appointed to be the Secretary Pro Tem. Sorry, the President Pro Tem. And
Okay.
Christy, you're appointed to be the Secretary Pro Tem. In so much as there is no further business to come before this board, a motion for adjournment sin die. Okay, I've never heard that one. Okay, sine die. This is a voice vote, but I thought we have to do roll call for stuff because we're on the internet. Anyone want to chime in on that? Well, I thought that's why we were doing the roll call when we come back from executive session, because we're on the internet and according to the Open Meetings Act, if we are, then we have to do that. That was my understanding previously.
I didn't know it had to do with the internet. I thought it had to do with just.
I thought if the
Following
board meetings were
this.
virtual.
I think it was, because it's a different session, wouldn't we do it even if we were not on?
No, we wouldn't. That's what I'm saying. We were doing it that way because I thought because of the Open Meetings Act and the governor's order.
Order, so let's call the roll and be done.
Okay. Secretary, please call the, oh,
It
wait.
won't take that long.
So I make that motion. Was there a second?
Second.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Holly.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Fingerhut, aye. Erickson.
Aye.
Gallegos.
Aye.
St. Clair.
Aye.
That should conclude our businesses for this seated board.
Yes, right.
Now, before we go, before Kurt and Wells go, and Rob, if you're listening, Wells and Kurt, you exemplify what putting yourself before others is about. Being on a board is all about service and serving others. Rob, thank you for being straightforward, calling it like it is, and enjoying a quick meeting, but above all, always advocating for what you believed was best for Mundelein. Kurt, through our time together, you've always been the voice of student first whenever we've talked on the phone. You've always provided an alternate perspective for how we went about working through different issues. And you've also added an element of what it's like from a teacher's perspective. Thank you. Wells, you're always prepared. I'll always be impressed by the filing cabinet you had the one night when we were in our finance committee, bringing back the files that we had to keep things pieced together. You've always been thought-provoking with having us look at things from a different perspective, while also adding in the historical perspective that adds context to the decisions that we needed to make. It helped us be a better and informed board and team. And when I thought about what it's been like just with the short term, even with you guys in the last year and a half, but over your terms, and I can't go all the way back, when you just think about some of the accomplishments that you've done as a group and you've been part of. When you think about adding the West Wing to Washington, being creative for how that took place so we could have enough space for our students. You took on the solar project, being innovative in a time when renewable resources were very important, and it's something that the district will benefit from years to come. Going through the process of updating the board policies and making sure they reflected what we were doing as an organization. A couple of years ago, going back and looking at our fee structure and looking at how you could retool that so that you made more opportunities available for students that didn't always have the fees available to participate in those programs. You also had the foresight to also look to engage in a shared service idea that could bring two school districts together to work towards the betterment of one community. And in that process, always being able to find time, we were able to get a common vision put in place. So in this very short time, those accomplishments should stand out. I think what makes it even more remarkable is the kindness and grace that you have handled this past year with. As all of you have experienced for the last year during a pandemic, probably the most difficult time you could ever imagine being a board member as you've went through this process. And for Kurt, Wells, and Rob, thank you for being a service for our community, thinking of our students, and being a voice of reason when sometimes there wasn't any reason at all going about. You know, you always got a place to come back. You're always welcome to stop by on the second and fourth Tuesday. You know where we'll be. And I want to wish you all the best as you move forward in your careers and lives. On behalf of your admin, fellow board members, we do have a plaque honoring your service here. And Tony Canoli was kind enough to also provide a little treat while we couldn't have cake. But it was at least something to be able to send you guys off with for a little sweet tooth. So on behalf of all of us, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Kevin, hand it back over to you, sir.
That would be Lisa.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lisa.
Well, I'd like to say a few words. Although Kurt works in my district, I didn't really know him very well. And I totally echo what Kevin said. Kurt, your perspective from the student point of view, I thought was invaluable to the last 4 years. And I'll cherish the work that we did together on the Shared Services Committee, because I think it was a really important thing that we did. And I feel like it's just like the beginning of it. And hopefully you'll get to see it as your girls grow, you'll get to see the fruits of what we did. Wells, I have to say that I will really miss the emails from you when you find something like totally in a different world in your job that relates to something that's going on in our schools or in our classrooms, and just reading that and just getting like a little bit, like Kevin said, like a different perspective on stuff from that thing. Although you know, sometimes it's a really huge gap, but it totally makes sense. And I just loved looking at like how that part of your world was sort of affecting what was happening in our schools and with the board and everything. So I will really miss that. And I'll also miss the historical perspective, although I've been around for a while too, but you have the years behind you, and it's gonna be weird going forth, coming to meetings without you here. So thank you so much for your many years of service. The community really appreciates what you've done for Mundelein District 75. Thank you.
You've been a great leader. We managed to make the transition and not shoot at one another or do anything like that. So, you know, that was a good thing.
Right.
And you have served a number of years as well, so you've got a good perspective to fall back on. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think
Anyone
that's.
Word format to where
We
we
should
ask
do
them
that.
to recite it, or do I recite it and ask them to agree?
Yeah, second.
Second.
That was long.
Oh, boy.
I'm gonna hang around, see who gets the first. So,
So you have to take it too? The
Take
oath?
it easy, thank you.
All right, gentlemen, welcome.
Oh, yeah,
And
no,
now
you
we're going to
don't have to
administer the oath of office, swearing in of new board members. I'll ask you to state your name in sequence, and then I'll read the rest. So why don't you go first, Mr. Rose? I
Lenny J. Rose.
I, Alvin Minsky.
I, Eric Pelletier.
Hi, Kevin Holly.
do solemnly
Ready?
swear.
I, Freddie Gallegos.
Oh, Lenny,
No, no.
you're not standing. No,
Make it official.
make it official. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education of Mundelein Elementary School District 75 in accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois to the best of your ability?
I do.
I do.
I do.
Okay, further swear or affirm after the next statements, please. You shall respect taxpayer interests by serving as the faithful protector of the school district's assets.
I do.
I do.
Yes, say I do. You shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by your fellow board members and others who seek a hearing before the board while respecting the privacy of students and employees.
I do.
You shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual and that decisions can be made only by a majority vote at the public board meeting.
I do.
You shall abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels.
I do.
As a part of the Board of Education, you shall accept the responsibility for your role in the equitable and quality education of every student in the school district.
I do.
You shall foster with the board extensive participation of the community, formulate goals, define outcomes, and set the course for Mundelein Elementary School District 75.
I do.
You shall assist in establishing a structure and an environment designed to ensure all students have the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework.
I do.
You shall strive to ensure a continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the education of our children in compliance with state law.
I do.
You shall serve as education's key advocate on behalf of students and our community's school or schools to advance the vision for Mundelein Elementary School District 75.
I do.
And last, you shall strive to work together with the district superintendent to lead the school district towards fulfilling the vision the board has created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship, and personal development.
I do.
Congratulations, gentlemen, and welcome.
Thank you.
Wow, take a seat.
Yeah.
Small world.
So we can now call to order and do the roll call for the new board. Secretary Pro Tem, can you please call the roll?
Polly,
Here?
Rose,
Here.
St. Clair,
Here.
Kinsky.
Here.
Gallegos.
Here.
Fingerhut. Here. Steve Whittier,
Village here.
Billy Tier.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to nominations of officers. Nominations are now in order for the office of president. Any member of the board may nominate any other member, and nominations do not require a second.
I'd like to nominate Kevin Holly since he's been in that position for past year at least, and hopefully that would give some continuity. That would be my nomination.
Are there any other nominations for the office of president? One last time, are there any further nominations? And I'm required to ask for a third time, so I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just following
How dare
directions.
you, Lisa.
Okay. One last time, okay. Okay, a motion has been made to nominate Kevin Holly to the office of president. The secretary pro tem will now call the roll for voting on the office of president.
Gallegos.
Aye, sorry.
Kinsky.
Aye.
Fingerhut. Aye. St. Clair,
Aye.
Rose,
Aye.
Polly.
Aye.
I'm trying, I don't want to mess it up, I'm sorry. Billy Tier. Okay.
Aye.
So Kevin Holly, congratulations, has received the majority of the votes cast and is elected president.
Thank you. Okay, nominations are now in order for the office of vice president. Any member of the board may nominate any other member, and nominations do not require a second.
I would like to nominate Mrs. Sinclair as vice president.
Lisa St. Clair. Are there any further nominations for the office of vice president? Okay, one last time, third time. Are there any other nominations for vice president? Okay, hearing none. A motion has been made to nominate Lisa St. Clair to the office of vice president. The secretary pro tem will now call the roll for voting on the office of vice president.
Whittier.
Aye.
Fingerhut. Aye. Gallegos.
Aye.
Kinsky.
Aye.
St. Clair,
Aye.
Rose,
Aye.
Polly.
Aye. Lisa St. Clair received a majority of the votes cast and is elected vice president. Congratulations, Lisa. Okay, nominations are now in order for the office of secretary. Again, any member of the board may nominate any other member, and nominations do not require a second.
I'm not gonna nominate everybody.
I nominate Chris.
You better ask her first.
She did. I said that I would do it.
She had a sideboard.
Are there any other nominations for secretary?
I don't want to do that to anybody
A
else.
third time, are there any other nominations for secretary?
Christie will.
A motion has been made to nominate Christy Fingerhut to the office of secretary. The secretary pro tem will now call the roll for voting on the office of secretary.
Fingerhut. Aye. Gallegos.
Aye.
Whittier.
Aye.
Kinsky.
Aye.
St. Clair,
Aye.
Rose,
Aye.
Polly.
Aye. Christy Fingerhut receives a majority of the votes cast and is elected secretary. Congratulations, Christy.
I think that job's more challenging than the other.
Yes, well, I got it last time on my first night, so that was fun. And I didn't want to do that to either of the three of you, so.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is committee appointments. I think everyone received an email ahead of time to give you a heads up about what the committee assignments were. So we have like our regular standing committees, board policy, the parent teacher advisory / behavioral intervention, the finance advisory, and shared services. That's the first section. Then we have some representative appointments. We have one for the STEAM Foundation, one for CEDAW, community outreach, one for the IASB, which is the Illinois Association of School Board Delegates. And then our last one is a special board committee that we just approved at the last meeting, the Equity Policy Committee. Okay, so technically, the board president can just appoint people, but I would rather see what people are interested in doing, and sort of, you know, based on that, sort of go from there and figure out what you guys are, what you're all interested in working on. I think that's the fairest way to do it.
And
The only
and
one
we
that's on
can
that-
certainly tell you how often we meet, what's involved for any of these. So I can share with you a couple. I was on the STEAM Foundation and I did talk with them, and they are very interested in having a board member again. They meet monthly. They've been meeting virtually as far as I'm aware. What they do is they fundraise. They have 2 fundraisers a year, and then they accept grant applications. So they approve grants to different organizations, usually associated with District 75. Their charter, I think, allows them to give it outside, but most of their work, 99% benefits District 75 in some way, shape, or form. So it's about an hour commitment a month, hour and a half, sometimes the meetings go long. And then to the degree you can participate in fundraising, that's what they ask.
The only one I'm not really clear on is the parent teacher advisory and behavioral intervention. If somebody could explain that a little bit.
Well, we haven't really had anybody appointed to that before.
That's
That
good.
was- Yeah, that was discussed the other day. I also, after the last board meeting, I had members of the PTO asking about that too, going, we're part of that? We didn't know that. So I think we're all gonna learn that one together.
So I had a look at it. It'll probably be getting a group together to go through the student handbooks and make sure they align with the policies that we have in place. And for that committee to review that and to say, are we implementing the policy the way it was intended? Or if there's a modification that's come along through the policies that have changed, that we change the policy in that handbook.
Okay, so, but if there were a behavioral issue that needed to come be resolved, you're not part of that.
No, sir.
I'm not real clear.
How are we defining community outreach?
It seems to have replaced
Yeah.
the Village of
Yeah, it was like
Mundelein
village
board.
liaison kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this up for redefine, you know, so if somebody really
Yeah.
feels they want to do that, they can kind of define this or bring it suggestions to what this means?
It seems as though, because there's 2 members, that I think it's kind of encompassing the Village of Mundelein, all of, you know, since we do have a lot of community things that overlap with both districts as well, that, you know, attending things, bringing to their tent, like, you know, for example, we have, I can tell you that today it was just announced which days in May the middle school is going to be doing a musical, you know, I mean, just bringing some of that kind of stuff to everybody's attention. And alerting the rest of us and those of us that want to participate in some of those community events, if you don't know about them, you can't attend, so.
I would suggest that we only need one person to do that. I don't know that we really need 2 people to do that.
The only reason why I think it says 2 is that way if, like, for example, the Village of Mundelein board, if you're gonna have that, that's meeting once a month, maybe the same person doesn't wanna do that every single month, but then you can kind of split the
Okay.
attendance a little bit rather than committing to having to do that all the time. just to ensure that I think we have the information. And I can say the IASB, I've been the delegate the last 2 years. I enjoyed it, but I'm happy to let somebody else take that over if they'd like to. Not any of us are able to attend the seminar. This last year it was virtual, but normally it's in person in November in Chicago. And so any of us can attend that. This is just basically saying one of us would be the delegate to then vote on behalf of the board. We would discuss in advance the resolutions and have an opportunity to all weigh in on those. And then the delegate is the one who actually votes on behalf of the board there.
I'd say for me, from the committee appointment standpoint, I would probably like to work on shared services. And as far as the other bottom part, equity policy would be great. I don't know if you want to take it section by section or across the board.
It's good to know
Well,
interests. I mean, that's.
Yeah, I think maybe let's just go down the row.
Okay.
For you who may have not been familiar with what some of these means, obviously you know what a policy is, but the process is we subscribe to a subscription service.
Okay.
So it will extract for us the materials. Anna, isn't it usually quarterly, 3 times a year? We get a packet that says what policies are up for review, what's changed based on changing legislation and things like that. So basically it's reading and trying to understand what the context is. If we need questions answered, we can work through the board lawyer for opinions if we want. And then the policy committee brings it to the rest of the board for discussion and explanation.
We did have some discussion on that because I know the agenda says 1 member is for the board, but in the past we've had 2, and I know further on, it does have 2. I know it's kind of a big, especially with some of those policy things, it's kind of a big job, and in the past, Lisa and Wells both did it.
Yeah, on the other sheets we have, it says 2.
Okay,
So-
I just didn't know if that meant we had to decide which one we wanted, or.
I personally like the policy, so unless there's 2 people that really like, I mean, it's almost like a learning process. You have to understand the language, and so that's why it was good for me to have Wells mentor me for 2 years. So,
I think that's a great idea, Lisa.
I'm willing to help Lisa with that, but if somebody else expresses a stronger interest in doing it, that's okay too.
Anyone? All right, I'm gonna put Lisa and Christie for board policy. Eric, do you have any
Yeah,
feelings?
I'm most interested in the shared services.
Anything else?
As far as appointments go, I'd love to hear more about the CEDAW appointment and what that entails.
I've been doing that like the last few months. There are 2 sort of boards. There's the governing board, and that's a smaller group that's elected. There's 5 people on that, like 5 board members.
Okay.
School board members that are part of CEDAW that are on that. And then there's the regular board meeting, and that's quarterly.
Okay.
It's usually not on a meeting night of ours, so that
Okay.
works out really well.
Okay.
And they send you everything ahead of time. And it's been virtual the last few months, but the one coming up, I think in May, I think is going to be in person for the first time in a while,
Okay.
for obvious reasons. So
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in that position as a special educator. I feel like I could bring a lot to that and also learn a lot from that experience.
okay, great. All right, anything else? Is that good? Let's go over to the other side. Ray. Any interest in any of these?
Yeah, initially, and I know we just briefly discussed that there was a village liaison. But I don't know if the name changed, if the focus has changed, or
community outreach.
I think that could be part of the focus. We, to be our representative to the village for things. Anything else, Ray?
And what, the finance advisory? Can you expound on? Who's in that a little
I can't, if you want.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
attended 2 meetings.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So I mean, it's just going in more into detail with T, our CFO, into the finances, where we're at. Obviously, I've only attended 2 of the meetings. Actually, 1, I take it back. We've had 2 meetings since I've been on the board. I attended 1, I missed the other. So it's just really diving deep into, we also meet with some local representatives from the real estate and our banks, Wintrust. So just kind of go, it's, 1 to 2 hour meeting quarterly.
Yeah, sometimes like they've recruited community members for
Yep.
special initiatives. My husband did
I was
it
just-
once for for a few sessions.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Before you have.
whatever talent they need to bring in, and of course, T has exceptional knowledge of
Yes.
finances.
And they've always welcomed, so usually, because I've attended a few of them as well, usually when they have the finance committee meeting, it's usually going in depth over a report that's likely gonna come before the whole board in the near future. And so it's sometimes it's a good chance to kind of understand and ask questions in order to better help explain it or get stuff across to us when we don't have a full 2 hours to go through it here. And anybody is welcome to, we have to let Anna know if in advance you want to attend, so that it can be listed as an open meetings act if more than 3, more than 2 of us, so 3 of us want to attend. But I've attended a few of those, just to kind of understand a little better some of the things.
Yeah, it's a setting that lends itself to more people attending. Policy really doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, we just read it and then maybe we have phone calls about it, or, it's not, I mean, you're welcome to join and we can
Yeah.
set that up, but it's,
Riveting.
it's riveting.
That'd be good to have a shot, I guess.
Okay, great. Freddie, what are you interested in here?
I'll do the finance for sure.
Great.
And equity policy, please.
Christie?
So like board policy, since we said that, if nobody else has an interest, I mean, I have no problem doing the parent teacher advisory one as well if we need more members for that, but I don't mind if anybody else would rather, but I haven't heard anybody say that so far.
Okay.
As a parent, and I already do a lot of stuff with PTO, so I know a lot of the people, and that would be fine. Like I said, I'm happy to do the IASB. I could do the STEAM. I'm willing to help out. I could do community outreach. Any of them are fine, so I'm happy to be filtered in as needed. That doesn't mean I want them all. That just means I'm happy to have equity as well, but again, I know there's 2 or 3 already. 2 have already mentioned that, so
I think, like, I would be interested in
That's
equity as
fine.
well. I think the more on that topic, once we've gone over 3, it doesn't really matter anymore because it's an open meeting then, so.
But I think, and if we're going to be an open meeting, any of us could attend, so
Yeah.
I don't need to be on the committee if that's, I'm still interested in it, but that doesn't necessarily mean I need to be listed as one. So, however,
I'm interested in doing shared services again, sort of continuing on with that, and then I can sort of fill in wherever else we have openings, I think.
So did we have 3 then on shared service? Cause like, did Al say?
yeah,
Yeah.
Al, Eric, and Kevin.
No, Eric and-
I'm also very interested in the equity committee too, so if we need.
Okay, I'm gonna suspect that we're gonna have, that's gonna be a board meeting.
Yeah.
There's gonna be enough people interested in that. so. The one thing I'll say about shared services is that I thought it would be good for me to do it because it would be a continuation of and both Wells and Kurt were sort of on that committee also, and they're both gone. So I thought that I was natural, but we can definitely do 3 with Eric and Al interested, definitely. Although, you guys missed the hard stuff, but I'm sure from time to time things come up that we.
Roundabout.
I was gonna say.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's right, Al. Thank you for correcting me. Yeah. Okay, so just to recap, what I have written down, and Christie, we should talk and see what you really want to do.
I'm honestly
Just
open.
because I wrote your name down a lot, it's a different.
No, and
places.
that's why I was giving you options. I don't
Yeah,
expect
yeah,
to be filled in all of them.
I would say,
Policy, I think, makes sense because Lisa and I work well
yeah,
together.
I wrote that one in at Pat.
That's
so,
very
yeah.
similar to what I do, so it's fine.
But I was thinking, this is just my opinion.
Mhm.
What I think the parent teacher advisory / behavioral intervention. I feel like that's not really happening at this point, and I think maybe at some point it will. So I think we can, sort of look at that maybe in the future.
Okay.
So if you want, I would be comfortable, I don't know about you, Lisa, but I would be comfortable with her being the IASB delegate again, just because she's done that a couple times. That would be good with you, Christine.
No problem.
And then, obviously, we've talked about equity. I think that's going to be a board meeting, so. And then,
It's kind of work, Kevin, can if somebody like Eric wants to sample one, and, can we send different board members? I know from a continuity standpoint, maybe it's not the best, but I mean, is there some committees that might lend itself to trading off, like if I decide, it might be good to step out of our comfort zones and, go to a finance meeting or, or do, well, that one's not a good example, but.
So as far as the IASB, I would honestly encourage, because I know that the high school board I think their entire board went 2 years ago, obviously last year was off, but I would hope that more of us want to attend that, because I think there are a lot of really good presentations and seminars and stuff, and I think Wells did go for part of it too, so Wells and I went the last time, so I would encourage as many of us that want to go to that, but you don't have to be a delegate to do it. It's not that much work. You do miss part of the other seminars because you're sitting in the, but whatever, it wasn't that bad. But anybody could go and sort of observe that too if they wanted to do it another time, but it doesn't matter.
Al, have you been to the convention before?
A few times.
Okay.
But the delegate usually misses that first major presentation that's in the main hall, because they're usually voting there.
So,
Although this last time it was really efficient because it was all virtual and online. They could really do that again, and then we don't have to miss anything.
Makes
but
it
that's-
easier.
Yeah.
so what I was thinking, Christie, is maybe if some other board members wanted to go to the convention, at least experience that, and then maybe next
That
time.
would be
they can
fun.
do the-
Yeah, I would, if possible, I would recommend it, because the seminars and the sessions can be really informative.
Yeah, and that happens in like the third week of November, like usually
It's
right
like the
before
week before
before Thanksgiving. Yeah, so just so everyone knows. And it's in Chicago, which is the best part about it probably. Okay, so we're gonna see what happens with parent advisory. For finance advisory, I have Ray and Freddie. For shared services, we sort of touched on it, but I have Al and Eric and myself. For CDOL, I have Eric. I think the special ed angle is fantastic. For community outreach, we have Ray, ISB delegate Christie, and then I was thinking, Christie, do you want to do STEAM?
I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
That's fine.
That's great, good. And then equity, we have Al and Freddie and Lisa, and then with those three people and other people interested, it's probably, we're gonna have to advertise it as a board meeting anyway, so, I think that'll be fun that if whoever would like to attend is absolutely welcome to attend, since it's already gonna have to be, posted as an open meeting, so.
And Christie, I can help you out with this team.
I'm sure,
Since
yeah.
I'm familiar, it's just, I resigned because I just couldn't go to the volume of meetings and then. It's something, I'm just saying, it's something to keep in mind. I mean, you can always not attend.
Right. Well, and I know some of the people that are
Yeah.
involved, and I generally go to their fundraisers anyway. So
Yeah, that's what
fine.
I like, I get involved with the fundraising. I got the shirt too. So.
Okay, so that's all the committee and appointments and everything.
We only have Ray for community outreach. Does anyone else want to assist, just so that he doesn't have to feel like he has to do it all?
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric. Okay. Well, next item is the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. tonight coming before you with a recommendation to hire for our next assistant superintendent for teaching and learning. Before I get to the actual recommendation, I wanted to share with you some of the process that we did to be able to make the recommendation for this evening. Slide. So the timeline we had is once we were notified of the resignation, we identified a timeline to be able to go through screening the applications, which consisted of myself, Shane McCurry, and Tina Rutledge, looking through to make sure the certifications and experience that we are looking for were indicated in those applications. Then the first week of April, starting with the 13th, we did the first round of interviews. In order to get that first round of interview committee members, I reached out to our union leadership and asked them to appoint or get 2 people from each building, except for Lincoln, which I asked for them to have 1 staff member, just because of the number differential between the buildings. In addition to the staff members, I had the admin from the buildings also participate and one of our instructional coaches. First round interviews consisted of 13 individuals plus myself and the interviewee. Process we used was to get feedback first from our interview committee. We also had feedback from our building leadership teams. So our principals went back to their building leadership teams and they were all provided 6 questions that were the same, essentially asking about what they were looking for in the teaching and learning department. What were some of the strengths? What were some of the pieces of the culture and climate they wanted to retain? And the flip side, what are some of the things that they thought we could improve? And then ultimately, what would be something that they were looking for characteristic wise in the next person to take that role? We took all that information and then used that to develop the characteristics that we used for to guide our decision making. And I'll show that to you in a little bit. So based on that, that committee had a pool of questions. I asked each of them to look at the questions and they've ranged in different areas from general questions to curriculum, to equity, to curriculum and instruction, to working with personnel, to putting professional development together, really hitting every facet of the job that this person would be overseeing. Each of the staff looked at the questions that they wanted to be able to ask, and they also added questions that they wanted to ask themselves. Together, we came down to the 14 questions that we're going to ask every candidate. Once we got through that first round, because the screening, we had just over 35 applicants. After the screening, we got it down to 14. After getting it down to 14, we took 6 to the first round of interviews. The committee of 14 helped call that 14 down to 6. So they had the pool. So the group that came forward was vetted through 18 people before they ever even stepped foot onto our building. The next round was just administrators, and they were the main administrators that individual would be working with. Very similar process, except we already had our candidates that we knew. We looked at some similar questions, but had them at a different viewpoint because it was coming from a more of an administrative lens of what we need to be able to do. Still emphasizing these are the qualities and characteristics that from a staffing point through what we've experienced, we felt were critical to be in place. So then after that, went through the process, which brings us here tonight to be able to bring a recommendation to you. Next slide. Huh? Characteristics. Pull one up real quick. So the characteristics that you're going to see in the document, number 1 priority, individual must have had administrative leadership experience, minimally pre-K 8 or in a unit district. The reason for that, we want the individual to have a clear understanding of pre-K 8 teaching and learning. Ideally, would also want the individual to have taught in pre-K 8 so that you get the different experiences between both. In addition to that, some of the things that we are looking for, experience with a coaching model. If we have a coaching model, we want to see how that works. Working through the multi-tiered system of support. So that's going through the different interventions that we have in place for our students as they progress academically, from when we find out they're struggling, how to get them back to the classroom quicker. Clear understanding of how to implement professional development for adult learners. That means for our staff. How do you work with staff to determine their needs to be able to help them maximize what they're able to do in the classrooms? Was one of the other ones. The other emphasis that we've had, and we've been bringing to you as a board, is our bilingual program. What does that mean for them in their role to be able to make sure we're aligning those programs together so that our students are learning the same criteria. You take into that other considerations, how do we use data? So knowing that we are able to use information to help drive the instruction that we have before us. So what we want to be able to have is somebody that we know can lead a group of people, identify what the goals are, be able to determine what the measurables are. We hear that a lot. And then be able to report back out on that consistently. And I think one of the key things that we also look at is, it's one thing to use data and to put it back in the classroom, but you got to be able to make it so people understand it. And the last part we really had was talking about being able to communicate clearly and efficiently. So when they're going through sharing this information, it's crystal clear to you. Whether you're a novice or you think you're somebody or an expert, able to relate. And it's the personable skills. So what I just kind of went through with you without having it up there, and I might have missed some, these were the characteristics that we shared with all of the interview committee members. And Sarah, you're seeing this for the first time. These were the things that when we started to go through and after interviewing, because after we did the interviews, everybody had their own notes, and what their instructions were, give me feedback on these characteristics about those individuals. Don't tell me who you want hired. I want to know the characteristics that we're looking for, and then to be able to pull all that information to help me and the team make a better decision. So after we've went through all that, it was very clear that once we've got through the second interviews, that there was a number of really high quality candidates. But when it came down to it, there was clearly only one correct candidate for us. Coming to you tonight to recommend that we hire Dr. Sarah Cacciatore to be our next Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. She exhibits the skills and characteristics that are up on this board. Clearly is going to be able to move our district in the direction we want to go, knowing that the literacy is a monumental focus for us. Her expertise in literacy is exceedingly well. She's well schooled in the workshop model, which is something we are stressing be done from a pre-K-8 perspective. She's actually worked with Schoolwide before in the prior district, so is very familiar with them as well. I think in addition to just that piece alone of being that well-versed in literacy, the other thing that I think is has a quality attribute, her background's in science. So there's a whole nother area of experience that she's able to share. I think one of the things of really shine through with the reference checks is the mentoring and the coaching. So every time I talk to anybody, the things they said are the attributes, it was like you were coaching, you were working with somebody else with what you needed to do in your classroom. When you were doing a larger initiative, Sarah's done a wonderful job in breaking it down for us. So it was in sizable chunks that we could manage and maintain. And if I started to get frustrated, she was always there to pick me back up and help me keep moving forward. Those are some of the characteristics that I think are excellent additions for us as a school district. So for those reasons, I am asking the board to take action tonight to approve Dr. Sarah Cacciatore as our next Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning. Questions? Yes, sir.
Where did she come to us from?
Sarah comes to us from Oak Grove, District 68.
Thank you.
Just can you compare and contrast the length of her contract with the other contracts that we have in effect? And I read your explanation as to why you were recommending what you did, but I just wanted an overview again of what the different lengths typically have been.
Sure, good question. So administrative contracts can range from 1 to 5 years, all depending. I think depending what some things you need to take into consideration is what is the work ahead of the individual, and knowing that if it's going to take a longer time before something to get implemented so that they know that they have some security, versus if it's a relatively, I don't want to say easy job, but some of the things that you got to do are a little bit more laid out for you. The path's been laid. There's a foundation there. For us, when we look at it, I think when you take somebody that has a lot of experience, they've established themselves in another job. I think to me, it's important for us to say, we are extending ourselves to you with some security to be able to move forward with having that 5-year contract. In our last contract that we did for a principal, that was a 4-year contract for some very similar reasons in that process. So I think the thing to think about is the contract itself, to me, I think says 2 things. I mean, the longer you have it. A, we want you and we're investing into you for that time because we know it could be a lot of work ahead of you. And I think also for the employee, it's for them saying they have some security. And it's a 2-way street as we go through this process for the next few years. I think we've demonstrated in the previous board meetings just some of the work ahead of us with working with BioLiteracy, aligning the programs, working with our literacy initiative, that it would be warranted to have the extended time. And the key part is in any contract, and it's no matter the terms, 1, 3, or 5, you're still being evaluated. And in that contract, like all of our contracts and mine too, if we're not doing our jobs, we're going to get feedback and we need to be able to modify that if it's not going well. If it's going well, bravo, it's what we'd expect. So that's why I would think it would be appropriate to, and why I did recommend that it be a 5-year. Anything else? Okay.
Okay, so we just have, obviously, we just have the one action item tonight for the assistant superintendent for teaching and learning.
Did anybody, do you want to ask if there was any other questions about the contract?
Did the new board member, were the new board members able to look at that information? Yes.
They did receive the information.
Okay. The contract information also?
Yes.
Yes.
That access call, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and there's no other questions about the contract. I didn't get a chance to look at the contract today. Because of work, but, so,
My only question was the same one Lisa had about the time. The 5 years seems longer to me than what I was anticipating we were going to be looking at. I completely understand the experience. I completely understand all of the work ahead. That's the only, it just makes me a little nervous. 5 years is a long time. For someone that we haven't worked with yet. That's my only apprehension. That doesn't, not really a question because it's already been answered, but
Yeah, I'm just
For
curious if
discussion,
we've
that's my
ever
only
constructed a contract for like, say, 3 with the option to extend to 2, or, you know, some different flavor to get to a mutual comfortable spot.
And I think there were some other circumstances that led to the longer contract with it. Not that they all need to be compared. It's not, it's just, but it's not technically before us, so.
I think sometimes you have to weigh the differences, you know. I think if you want to have continuity through the whole contract, I think you have to look at that 5-year period. As Kevin stated, you know, each year they're going to be evaluated. If there's a problem, you know, you address it at that point. I think especially with what the task is going to be, you really need to
leave that confidence within the person that you're hiring. To know that they have the time where they're not, okay, I'm on a 3-year timeline now, and I've got to make sure I get things done quickly. You don't want to rush into things. You want to make sure that you're going to follow the steps and get through. And I think having a 5-year contract is really not going to limit us as to what to expect. I think it's fair, for that position.
Thank you for your opinion. Okay, I move that the Board of Education of Mundelein Elementary School District 75 accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the hire of Sarah Cacciatore as Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning starting on July 1st, 2021.
Second.
Second by Mrs. St. Clair. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Holly,
Aye.
St. Clair. Oh, we have the old members listed here, but that's okay. We'll make it work. Rose,
Aye.
Gallegos,
Aye.
Fingerhut, aye. Hetzke.
Aye.
Lydiard,
Aye.
Motion passes, President. Okay, so normally at the end of the meeting before we adjourn, we have a thing on the agenda called the President's Prerogative, but it's not on this month's agenda, but I'm going to
Take your prerogative.
I'm going to use my prerogative is to have this, and the only reason I really want to do this is because I know Al a little bit from his other service. I know Mr. Rose from his illustrious career, but not everybody knows everybody. So here's what I'd like to do, just briefly, is let's just go around the U shape here and just give us a little something about yourself. It can be biographical or an interesting thing, just a little something so we can start to get to know each other, definitely spending time together every month. Please, let's start off with Eric on the front.
Okay, my name is Eric Billetier. I grew up here in Mundelein. I'm a graduate of Mundelein High School, and I am currently a special education teacher at Mundelein High School. I'm married. My wife is also a graduate from Mundelein High School. We met at Mundelein High School, and we just recently moved back to Mundelein from 12 years in the city. So we're excited to be back home and starting our new life here back in Mundelein. That's it.
Al Hitzke, I've lived in Mundelein since 1980. I have 3 children, 4 grandchildren, a couple of great-grandchildren. I'm retired, worked for Discover Card for 20-some years, 25 years. I also currently work for the Chicago Cubs and have for 23 years. And currently a security supervisor there. If any of you have ever seen the Catching Hell documentary on ESPN about Steve Bartman, you will find me in there. I have a little circle on my head and I've been called a gray squirrel and a brown bag. But also I have 16 years that I spent on the Diamond Lake Elementary Board and 16 years on the 120 board. And I must be crazy that I'm doing this again. But I enjoy it. I like to give to the community. I'm a proponent for both the staff, administration, and the students. All of them. You work together, you get things done. So.
Well, there's 2 more Mundelein school boards left, Al.
I know, I got 79 is out there. I don't want to move out that way.
I'm Lisa St. Clair. This is my second year on the board. It seems a lot longer, just
Second term.
second,
You just started your third year.
third year, right. I've been on the
Okay,
board 2
sorry.
years, sorry. I've been in Mundelein for 30 years. Actually, Ray and I live in the same neighborhood. I've had 2 kids go through the public school system here. I can't decide if I'm retired or not because I quit a corporate job and then I started taking contract work. And so I go back and forth with that kind of struggle about just can't, they keep pulling me back in.
You're never totally retired.
As the Godfather says, they just keep pulling me back in. So I have a human resource background. Oh, and I'm a volunteer assistant coach at the high school with the track and cross-country boys teams, which are my joy, really my joy. My son also was a runner, so it's been really fulfilling to keep in with that crowd and watch some fine young gentlemen develop.
Kevin Holly, I've lived in Mundelein since 1998. I'm the technical theater coordinator at Libertyville High School. So every once in a while, there'll be a meeting that I won't be at, or I won't get here till after 9. And that's because we're working on production and I'm in the theater till all hours of the night. Tonight, I'm starting my 13th year on the Mundelein 75 school board. And I have 2 kids that went through 75 and Mundelein High School. And my daughter's a junior at Mundelein and my son is a junior. And I just have to, since Al brought up baseball, I just have to say that my son hit a 3-run home run tonight in his baseball game.
All right.
And he goes to Carroll University in Wisconsin, so very excited. Good.
I'm Christy Fingerhut. I have lived in Mundelein for 8 years, and this is going to be my 3rd year on the board. I have, well, for another month, 3 kids in District 75. My oldest will be going to the high school here shortly. So I've got a 6th grader, an 8th grader, and a 1st grader who's in the TWEET program. And I am a family law attorney, mediator. I've been doing that for 18 years, and what keeps me busy?
Freddie Gallegos, been living in Mundelein since 2015, born and raised in Lake County, wife, 2 beautiful dogs. I love golf. I'm starting my 2nd year. It's crazy. I was appointed last year, so I'm starting my 2nd year here on the board. It's been amazing. So I'm a vice president of operations for Janitorial Company. Been doing that my entire career, 17, 18 years now of facilities management and cleaning.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Ray Rose. I moved to Mundelein in 1992. I was hired as a police chief then and served for 21 years as a police chief. I retired and went to the Lake County Sheriff as the undersheriff. And then due to the medical reasons, I ended up retiring from there. I currently serve as the chairman of the Housing and Community Development Commission for the last 10 years with the County of Lake. I'm on the Mundelein Fire and Police Commission, the Mundelein Planning and Zoning Commission. In my spare time, I have 3 grown children. My daughter lives in Tennessee with my 3 grandsons. My son lives in Elk Grove. That's where we came from initially. And my granddaughter is at St. Mary's, Notre Dame. She just graduated from Mundelein High School. And my youngest son is in the police department in West MD. And I really look forward to working with all of you, and I'm really excited about the opportunity.
Okay, thank you everyone for sharing a little bit. We'll get to know each other over these next few years. So for the new board members, there's going to be some training happening. We're going to have a joint meeting. Is that next month?
Yeah, May 11th.
Okay, we're gonna have a joint meeting with District 120 to talk about starting off as a board in our new configuration. So that'll be interesting. Then there'll also be some training that will be provided by the Illinois Association of School Boards coming up. We'll get that to you. And then just so you know, this meeting was a little bit different because it's a Wednesday night and a very short board packet, but typically we meet on Tuesday nights. It's the 4th Tuesday, right?
Most of the time, so like this month. was-
Yeah, towards the end, the 3rd or 4th Tuesday of the month. And Anna will send out the board packet on a Friday, usually afternoon. We'll get it. Usually take the weekend to look over it. And then on Monday, Lisa started this really great thing this year where we have a Google document where we can put in our questions. And then at a certain point in time, Kevin turns those over to administrators and himself, and they answer the questions for us. So we have questions on the board packet. They usually try to get that to us by late in the afternoon on Monday, right? Isn't that usually?
Actually, by the end of the day.
Yeah, by the end of the day on Monday, so that we can look at it, review it before our board meeting happens on Tuesday. So this president's prerogative is is to just talk about anything that randomly comes up, but it's also used for if there's anything that you'd like to see us put on the agenda for the next month, the next meeting, or in future meetings. This would be the time to do that. I don't expect anyone to have anything today because it's your first, you're sort of just getting your feet wet. Well, except for Al. Al's been, as we discovered, Al's been around the block, which is fantastic. I didn't know about the other school board. That's great. But if there's anything that you're curious about or you want to feel like needs to be on the agenda, that's the time to do it. But always, I'm always available. And I'm sure I can speak for the board members, are available if you have questions or need to talk about something, if you don't understand something, please feel free to reach out. We were all in your place, some of us not that long ago. So we'll be happy to answer questions or anything, help you out with whatever we need to do. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, anyone have anything else for the good of the cause?
Just a quick thing. I think when we started, I think Anna had circulated like a spreadsheet that had all of our contact information on it so that we all had that. Will that be something that we will get? Okay. So that they can reach out to us and we can do the same. Okay.
Excellent. All right. I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hiskey. Do we have to call the roll or can we just do it?
I think we're supposed to,
All those in favor?
that's fine.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, everyone.
So everybody knows Dr. Sarah is here, Dr. Torrance, they will review with us, so just send you out, say hi.